Close your eyes for a second. Not literally, but feel this. There's a voice in your head right now. There's always a voice. And most of the time, if you're honest, that voice is not kind to you. It catastrophizes, it replays, it rehearses disasters that haven't happened yet. It drags yesterday's failures into today's morning. It takes tomorrow's uncertainty and turns it into tonight's insomnia. You've tried to silence it. You've tried meditating, journaling, positive thinking, deep breathing. You've told yourself to just let it go. You've told yourself to think happy thoughts. You've watched videos, read books, downloaded apps, bought courses, and still that voice finds a way back in. Because here's what nobody has told you yet. You've been fighting the wrong war. The problem has never been that you have negative thoughts and emotions. The problem is that somewhere along the way you were taught to treat them like enemies. Like something to be defeated. Like a sign that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with you. But what if the thoughts aren't the disease? What if they're just the symptom of a mind that was never taught how to hold them? What if everything changes, and not when you stop feeling fear and anger and anxiety, but when you finally understand what they're actually trying to tell you? That's what this video is about. And if you're ready to stop running from your own mind and start owning it, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn has been sitting in the ancient world for over 2,000 years, waiting for you to find it. Drop "I'm ready" in the comments right now. Make it real. Let's go. Let me ask you something that might be uncomfortable. How much of your life, how many actual years, actual hours, actual moments of real living have already been stolen by the noise inside your head? Think about last week. Not the big stuff, the small stuff. You were in a conversation, but your mind was somewhere else, replaying an argument, rehearsing what you should have said, bracing for something that hadn't happened yet. You had a good moment, a quiet evening, a laugh with someone you love, a small win at work. And anxiety arrived like an uninvited guest and whispered, "Don't trust it. It won't last. Something's about to go wrong." You tried to make a decision and fear froze you in place. Not because you didn't know the answer, but because the fear of getting it wrong felt louder than the desire to move forward. You felt anger, real, hot, consuming anger, and you either swallowed it until it became resentment, or you let it out and then spent hours ashamed of how it came out. This is the invisible tax that millions of people pay every single day. Not in money, in life, in the conversations they weren't fully present for, in the risks they never took, in the relationships they slowly poisoned with unprocessed emotion, in the version of themselves they kept promising to become. Someday, when things calm down, when life gets easier, when they finally get a handle on all of this. But here's the part that breaks my heart. Most people never stop to question this. They assume this is just how the mind works. They assume overthinking is their personality. They assume anxiety is just part of who they are. They assume that some people are born calm and they simply weren't. That emotional piece is for other people, simpler people, luckier people. And so they spend a decade, 2 decades, a lifetime, managing, coping, surviving, barely above water, treading hard, exhausted from the effort of just keeping their own head from pulling them under. But you're here, and that means something. That means some part of you, some quiet, persistent, stubborn part of you, refuses to accept that this is just how it has to be. That voice that says there has to be another way. That voice is right, and the other way has a name. 2,000 years ago, in a world that was harder, crueler, and more uncertain than anything most of us will ever face, a group of human beings discovered something. Not a pill, not a hack, not a 5-step productivity system, a philosophy, a way of seeing, a fundamental shift in how a human being relates to their own inner world. They called it Stoicism. And before you picture cold, emotionless robots who feel nothing, stop. That's not what this is. The Stoics were not people who suppressed their emotions. They were not people who pretended pain didn't hurt or that fear wasn't real. They were not detached from life. Many of them lived at the absolute center of it, in the most demanding, most volatile, most high-stakes environments imaginable. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world, emperor of Rome, and yet he spent his nights writing private journal entries about how to be a better human being. He dealt with plagues, wars, betrayal, personal loss, and every morning he sat down and reminded himself, not what he controlled in the empire, but what he controlled in himself. Epictetus was born a slave. He owned nothing. He could be beaten, sold, discarded at the will of another person. And from that place of zero external freedom, he built a philosophy of absolute internal freedom. He said, "They can chain my leg, but not even Zeus himself can chain my will." Seneca advised the most dangerous emperor in Roman history, navigated constant threat of death, and in the end, when Nero ordered his execution, he died with more dignity than the man who killed him. These were not monks in mountains. These were not people removed from the mess of human life. They were in it, drowning in it sometimes, and they found a way to breathe. What they found, what the core of everything is this. You cannot control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond. That sounds simple. It sounds like something someone cross-stitches onto a pillow and hangs in a bathroom. But sit with it for a moment. Really sit with it. And you'll realize it's not simple at all, it's radical. Because if you truly believed it, truly lived it, it would change everything about how you move through the world. Epictetus called it the dichotomy of control. And it's the foundation on which everything else in this video is built. Some things are in your power, some things are not. In your power, your thoughts, your judgments, your choices, your reactions, your effort, your attention, your values, how you treat people. What you decide to believe about yourself, not in your power, other people's opinions, the past, the future, the economy, the weather, traffic. Whether someone texts you back, whether the world thinks you're good enough, whether your plans survive contact with reality. Now here's the question that will shake you if you let it. How much of your suffering right now is coming from trying to control things that were never in your power to begin with? How much of your anxiety is rooted in trying to manage outcomes that belong to the future? A future that doesn't exist yet and may never arrive in the form you're dreading. How much of your anger is fueled by wanting other people to be different, to behave differently, to think differently, to treat you differently, when other people's inner worlds are completely, utterly outside your jurisdiction? How much energy have you poured into the wrong territory? This is what Stoicism asks you to do, not to care less, not to feel less, but to redirect. To take all that fierce, burning, exhausting energy you've been spending on what you cannot control, and pour it, every drop of it, into the only place where it actually has power. Your response, your mind, your choices. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He wrote that during a plague that killed millions. During wars that threatened the empire he was responsible for. He wasn't writing it as theory. He was writing it as survival. And now it's yours. Before we go any further, we need to talk about fear, anger, anxiety, not as problems, as messengers. Your emotions are not your enemies. I need you to hear that, because most of the self-help world has accidentally taught you to treat them like threats. To push them down, shut them out, replace them with something more positive. But your emotions are ancient. They predate language. They predate culture. They are your nervous system's way of communicating something it considers urgent. Fear says, danger ahead, come on, prepare yourself. Anger says, a boundary has been violated. Something that matters to you is under threat. Anxiety says, the future is uncertain. Stay alert. In the right context, these are not weaknesses, they are weapons. A soldier in battle needs fear to keep him sharp. A parent protecting a child needs anger to mobilize action. An athlete before a performance needs anxiety to sharpen focus. The problem isn't that you feel these things, the problem is that your brain, brilliant, powerful, ancient brain that it is, was not built for the world you're actually living in. Your nervous system was designed for a world where threats were immediate and physical. A predator in the trees, a rival tribe at the border, a cliff edge in the dark. In that world, fear needed to be instant, total, and consuming, because hesitation could mean death. But you are not being chased by a lion. You're worried about a presentation, a difficult conversation, a relationship that might be drifting, a career that isn't where you thought it would be by now, a future that looks uncertain, and a past that keeps insisting on being replayed. And your nervous system cannot tell the difference. It treats a tense email the way it would treat a predator. It floods your body with cortisol because of a thought. It hijacks your rational mind over something that isn't actually happening. It's just being imagined, feared, anticipated. Seneca said it best, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Read that again. Most of your fear is not about what's happening. It's about what might happen. Most of your anger isn't about this moment. It's about the story you're telling yourself about this moment. Most of your anxiety is not rooted in actual danger. It's rooted in uncertainty about a future that hasn't arrived. You're not fighting reality. You're fighting your thoughts about reality. And that, right there, is where your power lives. So let's talk about how to actually work with these emotions. Not suppress them, not perform them, work with them. Start with fear. Fear is the oldest one, the most primal, and for most people, the most paralyzing. The Stoics had a practice for fear that was almost uncomfortably direct. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, and it sounds dark until you understand what it actually does. The idea is simple. Instead of avoiding the thing you fear, you sit with it deliberately. You imagine the worst outcome with calm and clarity, not to torture yourself, but to rob the fear of its teeth. Because fear's greatest power is in the shadow, in the vague, looming just out of sight dread of something terrible that might happen. Fear thrives in the gap between what is and what might be. Shine a light on it, give it a shape, a name, a specific form, and it almost always shrinks. Try it now. What are you afraid of? Losing your job, rejection, failure, the end of a relationship. Whatever it is, follow it all the way to the bottom. If it happened, if the thing you fear most actually came to pass, what would you do? You would grieve, yes, you would feel it, you would have hard days, and then you would move. Because you always have. Because humans are not built to stay down. You've survived things before that you were sure would break you, and you're still here. Seneca used to practice poverty once a month. He would sleep on the floor, eat simple food, wear rough clothing, even though he was wealthy enough to avoid all of it. Why? To prove to himself that even if he lost everything, he would survive. To make the fear familiar. To take its power away before it ever had the chance to use it against him. When you rehearse difficulty with clarity and calm, the fear loses its ability to paralyze you. You are not a person who cannot handle hard things. You are a person who has not yet realized how much you can handle. Now anger. Anger is fast. Anger is a flash flood, and when you're in it, it feels like the most justified thing in the world. Like the anger is righteous. Like the anger is correct. Like the anger is who you are. But here's what anger doesn't tell you while it's burning. It's temporary. And the damage you do while you're in it is almost always worse than whatever caused it in the first place. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" The email you send in rage, the words you say to someone you love, the bridge you burn, the reputation you damage, the version of yourself you become in that moment, the one you don't recognize afterward. That's not strength. That's your nervous system running on autopilot while your wisdom sleeps. So the Stoic prescription for anger is almost embarrassingly simple. Pause. That's it. Just pause. When you feel that heat rising, that impulse to lash out, to defend, to retaliate, to destroy, stop. Take a breath. Count to 10 if you need to. Walk away from the conversation. Sleep on the message before you send it. Put the phone down. Give yourself space between the trigger and your response. Because in that space, even a tiny sliver of space, your rational mind has a chance to wake up. Epictetus said, "It's not the events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about those events. Someone cuts you off in traffic. That's the event. Your judgment. This person is a reckless idiot who disrespected me personally. That's what creates the rage. But what if you chose a different judgment? What if they're rushing to a hospital? What if they genuinely didn't see you? What if, and here's the most liberating option, it simply doesn't matter, and you'll forget about this in 20 minutes. You get to choose the judgment. Not always easily, not always immediately, but you do get to choose. And every single time you pause instead of react, you are building something. You're building the muscle of self-mastery. You're proving to yourself, not in theory but in lived experience, that you are not your impulses, that you are not a slave to your emotions. You are the one who decides. And then there's anxiety, the one that never fully announces itself, the one that just sort of settles in, colonizes the background of your mind, makes itself at home in your chest and your shoulders and the space behind your eyes. Anxiety is tricky because it disguises itself as intelligence. It says, "I'm just helping you prepare. I'm thinking through all the possibilities. I'm keeping you safe." But anxiety is not preparation. Preparation is specific, actionable, and then complete. You prepare, and then you act, and then you move on. Anxiety is different. Anxiety prepares endlessly. It solves problems that don't exist yet. It rehearses conversations that may never happen. It catastrophizes outcomes that are statistically unlikely. It keeps you in a permanent state of bracing, tense, waiting, unable to rest, because somewhere in the future there is a thing to be afraid of, even if that thing doesn't have a name yet. Anxiety is fear spread thin across time. And the antidote, the only real antidote, is the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because the future isn't here. You cannot fix the future. You cannot control it. You cannot think your way to a safe enough version of it. All you can do, the only thing you have ever been able to do, is show up fully for this moment and trust that when tomorrow arrives, you will meet it with what you have. So when anxiety grabs you, come back. Feel your feet on the floor. Name 5 things you can see. Listen to the sounds in the room. Take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. Not because breathing is magic, but because deliberately returning to your body pulls you out of the imagined future and back into the only thing that is real. Right now, this moment, this breath, you are okay right now. And that is enough. Here's what changes when you start living this way. Everything and nothing. Your circumstances might stay exactly the same. The difficult people are still difficult. The uncertain future is still uncertain. The challenges don't vanish. The fear doesn't disappear. The anger still flares. The anxiety still tries. But you are different. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel okay. You stop needing everything to go right before you can have peace. You stop believing that your inner state is determined by things outside your control. There will be a moment, and you'll know it when it comes, when you're in the middle of something that used to devastate you, and you notice something unexpected. Space. Space between what happened and how you respond. Space between the thought and the belief. Space between the feeling and the action. And in that space, that small, precious, hard-won space, that's where you live now. Not controlled by impulse, not enslaved by emotion, not tossed around by every shift in the weather of your life. Steady, grounded, awake. The Stoics called it apatheia. Not apathy, not indifference, but freedom from being dominated by destructive emotion. You still feel everything. You feel it deeply. But you are not consumed by it. You are the observer. You are the sky that holds the storm, not the storm itself. And from that place, from that quiet, sovereign, unshakable place, you can finally respond to life with wisdom instead of panic, with clarity instead of chaos, with strength instead of surrender. So where do you go from here? You practice. Every single day, life will hand you opportunities to apply this. Someone will frustrate you. There's your chance to pause before reacting. Something uncertain will loom ahead. There's your chance to return to the present instead of catastrophizing the future. A thought will tell you that you're not enough, that you'll fail, that it's too late. There's your chance to question it instead of obey it. This is not a one-time transformation. It is a daily practice, a daily choice, a daily commitment to meeting yourself with awareness instead of autopilot. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations once and call it done. He wrote them every morning. He reminded himself every day before the empire demanded his attention, before the world came for him, of who he was choosing to be. You'll forget, you'll react, you'll get swept up. That's part of being human, not a sign that you failed. But every time you notice, every time you pause, every time you choose awareness over reaction, you are building the life you actually want to live. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. You are not broken, you never were. The prison was always in the mind, and the key, you've had it all along. So stop fighting yourself. Stop resisting what you feel. Stop believing that every dark thought is a verdict on who you are. Start observing, start choosing, start living like the sovereign of your own inner world. Because that is exactly what you are. Fear does not own you. Anger does not own you. Anxiety does not own you. You own them. Now go live like it." If this video shifted something in you, drop "I own my mind" in the comments below. Make it a commitment. Make it public. Let it be the first act of your new relationship with your inner world. And if you're serious about this journey, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Because this is just the beginning. Every week we go deeper into Stoic philosophy, into emotional mastery, into the kind of inner freedom that no circumstance can touch. Thank you for being here. Now go.